and welcome back to my top 30 solitaire games list and the second 10 I guess. And let's start right away with number 20, and that is the second volume of the coin series. That's Cuba Libre, and the Counter-Insurgency series deals with Castro's insurgency and has 4 totally asymmetric factions with different victory conditions and bot rules for each of those. And they are pretty easy to manage once you learn how to use them. Not the easiest I can say to you right now, but once you understand them, they are pretty intuitive. And of course, you can always do something like the other players would do. And of course I'm talking about the solo perspective here, because this goes from 1 to 4 players, so you can actually have bots even in multiplayer games if you like. But the one player game is cool. You can really try the different factions and see what works, but the game is still different from the multiplayer also, so the bots do the things in a semi-predictable pattern, of course depending on what happens on the map, but still you can predict some things but not all, and they just function pretty well, and they do pretty nicely what the faction likes to do. But of course in a human-to-human situation, the human might do something weirdly different strategy, so there are differences, which is a good thing, because if you play the game a lot, you get a different game in a solo game also. But yeah, it's a hard and heavy war game from, like, that's good for solo game, so that's great. Okay, next is the next DVG game on the list, and first of the Leader series, and that is Hornet Leader. I only got this summer finally, and I actually got the Tulhu expansion already, but haven't tried that one yet. Just really enjoy this series, almost all of the games of this series. I backed the B-17 Flying Fortress Leader on Kickstarter this year, and hopefully getting it December, January. But anyway, Hornet Leader is basically you are commanding this air squadron through a campaign. I think there are 8 campaigns in the box or something like that, and you get, depending on, you can play a short, medium or long campaign, and depending on that you get a certain amount of pilots of different levels and different airplanes, and the more missions you fly, you gain victory points, and the pilots gain experience, and they can actually level up and get better skills. But also the pilots gain stress, so the more days they fly in a row, for example, they actually get so stressed out that they can't fly anymore, or their stats get lowered. And it's just the perfect solo game. I just really enjoy the tough decisions each turn. The main part of the game is actually how to arm your aircraft for this particular mission. And Hornet Leader has Hornets and modern combat in a sense, and the ammunitions are just so out of the like blue. The independent weapons, you can actually kill everything before just they did anything. For example, like your independent weapons could actually kill all of the air bogies before you actually got to the place. So that's very powerful, but usually it's just costs you so many of these special option points that you can't do it every mission, and you have to always balance on where to use these points, and getting the great scores is the best thing here, I guess, because I think most people can pass the campaigns if they aren't totally playing stupidly, but all in all you can really get attached to your pilots and leveling them up, and always play the long campaign. Always a great game. Okay, number 18, that's Lewis and Clark. Yeah, this is kind of a weird game, because this only has a quite small solo mode attached to it, which is basically this a Mackenzie guy which just moves 1 space each turn. But the cool part comes from setting the difficulty, just how far of a head start you can give the guy and still beat him. Of course, again, this changes the game. Some of the aspects I find that I never use in my solo game, just like for example, the boat expansions and stuff like that, because there is just no time for that. You just have to make the most effective engine as fast as possible, especially when you start giving him like 8 to 10 step head start. You really have to start banging the movement right away. And all in all, it's just a great puzzle to solve each turn, and when you see the available cards, you check which of those could be some of the cards that you need to use in this game, and you have to make that choice in the first few turns, because later it would be too late. And seeing those and seeing how to make those work is just the main part of the solo experience, and it's quick, like 20 minutes, 25 minutes once you know the game. I've played like 40 solo games of this and I still enjoy it, even though it's just kind of a dumb race where this guy just moves one space every turn, but the game itself is so rich that it just doesn't matter and I really enjoy it. Lewis and Clark. Okay, so then we're on to number 17. SOS Titanic. A cool, light game where this is basically the Klondike solitaire card game, which is added to this, added some Titanic theme to it. It has this cool flip book, art book, which you flip over once it tells you how time passes and the Titanic is sinking, and basically the cards are the passengers you have to rescue, and you have to play them on these rows and then start putting them to the escape pods, which are the aces as in Klondike. And you can actually compare your result to that, how Titanic actually fared saving people, and I actually did win it a few times, like getting all passengers out, but that's very hard. There are also special rules that give you special abilities. Actually works for 1 to 5 players, there are cards for that. And I played it with 2, which is cool, but I'm not sure how I would want to play it with more than 2, because the choices are pretty obvious and that. But 2-player is cool because the different abilities can actually combo in a cool way, and the event cards you can use. So, SOS Titanic, a great solitaire game. Okay, number 16 is a new game to the list also, and that is a dice game called DDay Dice. So this is basically Yahtzee mechanics, in a sense, refined Yahtzee mechanics added to a, what can I say, war game in a sense, not really, a resource management like game where you try to just land on the D-Day and land on the beach and then get your company through that beach alive to the end. And there are like, I think 6-8 scenarios or something in the box, and different abilities and different cards to use, and just these 3 different colors of dice, and if you manage to get a same result on each of those, you actually get a different bonus extra. So it's like a Yahtzee in a sense, but a different kind of Yahtzee, and just a cool game. I haven't tried it multiplayer, but solo works perfectly, and some of the maps are just brutally difficult. The only negative, I guess, is at least some of the maps are just, it's obvious, at least in solo game, which route you have to take if you want to survive, and that sometimes gives it less replay value. But I've already played it like 17-18 games, and I haven't touched even like 3 or 4 of the maps, so there's a lot of game in this box. And there are expansions which I might actually want at some point, but so far I've really enjoyed DDay Dice. Okay, then we are on to the next Commander series game here, so more DBG goodness, and that is, finally found it, and that's Field Commander Alexander. I haven't played through all of the campaigns yet, by all means, but played 2 or 3 of them multiple times, a few of them, so still got game in this. And this is basically similar to the Field Commander Rommel I already talked about, but it has some cool twists added to it, such as the fate, like what are the prophecies, and you can actually fulfill as Alexander, which portray to his real life, and if you do these you get special abilities, and you can have these advisors which can help you in one part of the game, and just a cool game again, really thematic and historic feeling, although it's basically resource management, but the battles, everything is just so cool, and the components are of the usual DVG quality. The cheats are cool. I've actually clipped my counters again to make them look extra good, and just a great game and more history for me. So that's Field Commander Alexander. Okay, number 14, yet more history from Victory Point Games, Cruel Necessity. This is from the English Civil Wars, actually, from 1640 to 1653, and has 3 games in a sense, but you usually want to play them as a full campaign. But Wars 1 to 3 are basically 3 games. You can actually play each of them as their own game also if you want, but I've only played the full game each time, and this is a brutal game. I've never won the game properly, at least. I got to the end and ended up with a score that still told me that I narrowly lost or something like that, and most of my games have been like a landslide losses. The more you play, the more you learn actually the good things, and you really have to learn some of the deck to actually be good at the game. But this is part of the stage of siege games, so basically you have these few things that the enemy is closing in on, and you have to push them back, and make try to avoid them attacking your castles, which give you points, or money and points actually, and actions. And all these things you have to micromanage, and if you really want to get the good scores, you also have to pass these achievements, as they are called, which are these cards which tell you to do something in the game, and when certain things happen, you can actually get the achievements, and they can give you a lot of points, but also sometimes good abilities. And there's also a political track, which is sometimes just brutal also. You can't just focus on the map, you have to sometimes push the politics up or down, and just cool things there. All in all, a great game and a lot of flavor text, so you can really learn history from this, and gives you just everything in the box. Cruel Necessity. Okay, number 13. More history, and that's Historia. A light civ game, kind of reminds me of Concordia because of the 1 card you play. Of course you can play 2 to 3 cards in this game, but this is a light civ game where the main component is this matrix of technologies that you can actually move on. When you move left, you advance in your technology, and when you move up, you advance in your military. I think it was that way. And the more you move in this matrix, the more abilities you unlock, and the more things you actually can accomplish. And there's a small map of the world which basically has a control cube of each player, and you can actually push each other out from different places and gain points that way. And controlling these regions gives you points, but there is no combat per se. It's basically just you remove cards if you manage to get there or stuff like that. So if you have higher military and a few things, but there's no troops or some buildings there or anything. And basically you just play these cards until someone plays this truce, whatever it is called, the card, sorry, revolution card I think it's called. And after someone plays that, it could be multiple players at the same time, because they are played face down and then revealed. And when someone plays the revolution, all players get some of their cards back, and they do this like upkeep phase, and we go back to the game. And just an all-around cool game. The reason it's here on the solo list, of course, is that the game comes with the small and easy rules to actually add bots to the game, as many as you want. And I've played it like with 4 or 5 bots, plays from 1 to 6 players usually, and the bots are easy to control, and usually 1 or 2 of them just really become your nemesis, and you really have to fight them at all corners. And usually 1 or 2 of them are removed at the first turn, basically, either by you or the other opponents, but it doesn't really matter because there are still a lot of competition. Just all around cool game, I think. Manages the civilization building in a very different way to most of them. Okay, so 2 left today, and number 12, more history. Sorry, and that is Labyrinth, the War on Terror. And well, history, this is pretty new actually. And actually just got the P500 copy of the Awakening, which is the expansion to this, but I haven't tried it yet because I have a lot of schoolwork at the moment, so I want to really delve into it with time during my winter vacation, Christmas vacation, I hope. But yeah, what is Labyrinth? It's basically the predecessor to the Coin series, which there are 2 asymmetric sides, USA and the jihadist terrorists, and the players have different victory conditions. Reminds of Twilight Struggle quite a bit, but still has very many different things. Card-driven game that just really works and has many different ways to victory and different events that can happen, and a lot of different politics. And the asymmetry is cool because the terrorists can really wrench the plans of the US by popping up all over the map and doing weird things. And just a cool game. And again, the reason it's here is because the game comes with solo rules for the jihadist. So you can play against the jihadist alone, and the rules are pretty clear, of course, not perfect, and sometimes they can get to this like loop, but usually they work pretty nicely, and it's actually kind of thematic in my opinion, because the bots do various different things around the map, and that's just, I think, feels like the real terrorist, not like some well-oiled machine that is doing this and then this and then this, but it's doing like this and then that and then this thing and that thing, and it's just cool. And of course the bot has some advantages also because it's not controlled by a human, so it sometimes does these broken things that are really, why did you do that? And it's tense to the end, and I have won it many times, but really like the game. And actually the expansion Awakening comes with solo rules for the US also, so you could play as the jihadist also. Okay, number 12 was that. And the last one today is a game that's rising and rising in my ranks. That is The Gates of Flo Yang. I really like this game, a 2-player, but I also really like it 1-player, because again, you just try to get a better high score in a sense by getting the perfect amount of combinations of cards. And the card row in a solo game, where you can draft these cards, and by paying for some of them and how they move after that, you can really manipulate to get some of the cards cheaper you really want next turn or stuff like that. And it's just a cool puzzle to solve. It plays quickly, like 30 minutes I think, when you know the rules well, and really interesting and satisfying puzzle. The 2-player game is brilliant, but the solo game has also become one of my favorites the more I've played it. And At the Gates of Flo Yang is one of the best Uwe Rosenberg games I've played. Okay, that was it for the Solitaire 10 from 11 to 20 actually. And one more list left, that would be maybe a few weeks from now. So, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the last list. Bye.